Today we'll be seeing PROC SQL and how we can write different queries, how we can get the data from the tables. We'll be using the SAS datasets. So as I have told you, the SAS datasets are the tables, and we'll see again the different functionality of PROC SQL that we have. So first, let's compare few of the terminology that we have in the PROC SQL and versus the SAS data step. So a data source, which contains data in which is called SAS dataset. In general SQL, we refer it as a table, and that also satisfy the state, or that's also with goes with the statement that datasets are and tables are same. In SAS dataset, we are calling every row as an observation. In SQL, it is referred as row, and variable is column. So these things you already know, but just wanted to have the different terminology, because when someone is asking you the question and they are mentioning the observations or row, then you are able to understand they are talking about the same thing. So PROC SQL syntax is very basic. You have a select clause where you can specify your columns. This is where you will be deciding what data you want to select. The from clause, you will be specifying your table name, your data sources. You can specify if you are working with a relational database, your views, or that sort of thing. Where is the clause where you basically decide to subset your data, where you can give the conditional where you can give conditions to select your data. This is very important to understand when you're working with the larger database and when you are having a lot of tables. So you should be filtering the data and only getting the observation that you need for your analysis. If you will not use the proper where clause and will try to select every all the observation, it will be time consuming and you will be fetching unwanted data. So this is something that you have to understand when you're writing how to use where, how you can write multiple where conditions. Then you have group by in PROC SQL, where basically you can summarize by some of the variable. We have seen how we can summarize using PROC mean or using a PROC frequency. We have seen how we can use the retain statement and can create the summaries by group. Like say by job role, we have created the total income, the minimum income and the maximum income. We have done all these using a data step, using the SAS procedure, and this we will see how we can do this by PROC SQL. It also have an having a clause. So having clause is basically used when you are using aggregation and you want to apply the condition after aggregation has happened. So where is basically it will apply those condition on the input data set. Having will apply those condition when the aggregation has happened and you want to filter. Then you have an order by clause in PROC SQL, which is basically nothing but it will allow you to sort your data in ascending or descending order. Yeah. So this is the normal order of in PROC SQL. You have select, you have from, you have where, and group by, and then having and order by. So this is the order. That's how you need to write these clause in your PROC SQL. Please remember, only select and from are the mandatory clause when you are when you are trying to fetch the data. Other clause are optional. So again, the same explanation which I have explained to you. PROC SQL, basically it will allow you to call SQL procedure. Select, as I've told, if you can specify your variable you want to be selected. In the from, you can specify the table or the data set that you want to query. Where basically is allow you to provide the condition. You can filter the data based on some condition. You can have the group by, where you can classify the data into groups. And then you have order by, and again quit will mark end of your SAS SQL procedure. Also note the syntax that you have in the PROC SQL and to the SQL server. So whatever you can do in SQL server, it's matching like 95%. There are a few exceptions to it, but if you know PROCs, if you know SQL, then understanding PROC SQL is very easy for you because it works in same way. Yeah. So before we, look into PROC SQL, let's see, what is the equivalent thing that PROC SQL is doing, and what's the equivalent thing that that we have in the SAS. So basically, if you want to drop columns in SAS, you can use drop statement in a SAS data step. In a PROC SQL, you can use select. If you want to rename a variable in your data step, what you can do, you can use rename. In PROC SQL, you can use as, and you can create an alias of the particular column or variable. If you want to add rows, you need to give an output statement. You can specify the output statement, and then the data will go to the particular data set, or if you are only having one data set, so it will automatically be written uh, to that data set. Here you have insert into close, which basically allow you to insert the data into table. You can delete the rows by using where or if then delete, which we have already shown you. Here you can use the delete from, you can use the delete query to delete the data from a table. If you want to delete duplicate rows in the SAS, we have using proc sort, you can do no dup key or no dup. Here you can fetch the distinct data by using distinct keyword in your PROC SQL. If you want to sort the data, you have a PROC sort. Here you can use order by clause. If you want to summarize the data, you can use PROC summary, which is equivalent to PROC mean, or you can use first dot last dot with retain statement, as I have explained to you. Here you can use group by clause, and you can basically summarize the database on the categorical variable that you have. The conditional statement, you can write if then statements. You can also write uh, select when statement in SAS. Here you have a case when statement. If you want to basically use some conditional statement in select, this is basically being used when you are trying to create a new variable. If you want to display some output, you can use in SAS, you have proc print. Here you can just use a select clause and it will print the data to output window. Another thing that being asked, in most of the interviews, or when people question, you hear people, those are working on SQL Server, or those are working on Teradata. They keep saying the word schema, and that's very common for SQL programmer. So schema is nothing but it's in a permanent library in SAS. A dataset, a table can be called a schema. Yeah. So basically, if you have a reference to a permanent library, so that is your schema, and inside that schema you'll have your tables or your data sets. Like a database in Teradata is called a schema. You can, in Oracle, basically you refer database as a schema. Yeah. Now, before we see how we can run proc, SQL statements, so what we'll do first, we'll create a table inside, So in order to access the data, what we need to write, as I've told, we need to write PROC SQL. We need to select clause. Star allow you to select all the variable that you have in your table. And using SAS data library, we are referring the emp data table which we have created, or the data set which we have created in a permanent library. So that's how you do. If you are having a database, you use a lib name, you build a connection to that lib name, and then you can just refer the table from that uh, particular database by just writing the lib name reference dot the table name. There is another thing you can write, pass through connection also, where you in PROC SQL itself you specify the dataset name and the credential, and then you can access the data. That basically varies engine to engine and the type of database, whether it's Teradata or it is DB2. But in general, you can create a lib name reference to a to a database, and then you can just access the table by specifying the libname reference, and the dataset name on it. So what we'll do, we'll be running this query where we are trying to select all the columns that we have in emp data table. Yeah, you can see it has selected all the columns that we have in emp data table and have, outputted them to result window. So now you can see when we were doing this using dataset statement. So what we were doing, we were using the set statement, and we were trying to refer a dataset, and then we were using proc print to print the dataset to output window. Here if you just use select clause, star will automatically refer all the variable from that particular table and will print them to output window. You select all the variable from a dataset. Now you can see asterisk is used to select all the column. As I have already told you, M data is the table or dataset where we are basically you need to select the columns or variables. I have stored this into a permanent SAS library called SAS data. So I think now you are clear, how you can create a permanent library, how you can store a data to a permanent library, and then how you can refer the data from that permanent library using PROC SQL. So now in real time scenarios, when you have tables, you have a lot of columns, in those tables, and it's really, if you want to know in SAS or in PROC SQL, what are the columns that particular table is having. When you use a select star, it will give you in the output. But if you want to basically print the number of columns using select star into the SAS log, then you can use the feedback option. So if you are using a feedback option, the SAS will automatically print all those column names to your SAS log. This trick is kind of useful when you're trying to select some particular columns and you don't know their exact name. So what you can do, you can write a select with a star with feedback option. The column name will be printed to SAS logs, and then you can just copy paste the columns that you need. So let me show you by running proc SQL with feedback option. Yeah. So if you go to your SAS logs, the query which we have run with select star, in your SAS log, it have basically populated all the columns that it have. So that's how you can use feedback option when you're using select star. You want to just quick copy paste uh, the column name or the variable name from a data set. Now select clause also allow you to specify the number of variable which you want. Let's say we are only interested from the emp data, we only want to get employee number, department, education field, job role, and gender. You can specify those variable in your select clause. All these variable will be separated by a comma. So that's the syntax that you have to follow when you are specifying more than one variable. Let's say keep or drop in a dataset option or in a dataset statement, there you only need to separate them by a space. But in proc SQL, what you need to do, you need to separate them using comma. So that's the syntax that we have. Let's see how we can do that. So that's how we have a select clause. I have specified all those variables that I want to to output in the select clause, and I have separated them by a comma. Yeah, so that's how you can also get the selected variables. I have used in obs. You can see in the proc SQL. I'll be explaining what is in obs and what is out obs. In proc SQL, it just basically help me to run the the data is this proc SQL faster. Now we'll be looking into limiting the number of rows and what is the benefit if we are trying to limit the number of rows. Basically, when you're writing complex queries, or let's say you're trying to fetch the data from from a larger database, you need to first test your code. You just want to pull some sample data. You don't want the complete data. You just want some sample data. You want to test your code. You want to code your complete project. In order to do that, proc SQL allows you, two options. One is out obs and the another one is in obs. Out obs option basically will restrict the number of rows that proc SQL is going to display, in a output window or to a table. The filtering will be applied when it is trying to output the records. In obs equal to option will restrict the number of rows that proc SQL is trying to read from an input source. So the filter will be applied when it's trying to read the data from a table, not while it's writing. So you can use you can decide if you're using an aggregation function and you just want to print certain number of rows, then you can always use out obs equal to option and it will restrict the number of rows that you are trying to output. If you just want to read some sample data from a table, then you can use in obs equal to option where it will restrict the number of rows it's trying to read. So that's how you can limit. So what I'll do, I'll just try to run the same query by using out obs equal to option. In the SAS log, you can see the warning, the statement terminated due to out obs equal to 20. So it will not allow this proc SQL to write more than 20 observation. Now let's try to run the same query using in obs option. So what you need to do, you need to specify it as option in the proc SQL statement itself. Now if you will see, the warning have changed and it's trying to tell you only 20 records were read from the input data set due to in obs equal to option. There's another thing that you have to note, the in obs and out obs that you're trying to use, they are effective only for that particular proc SQL. Where if you are trying to use options and you are in a SAS as a global option, there also you can limit number of rows, and that option if you are making them enable, they will be effective during the full session of that SAS program. But here these options are only applicable to that particular proc SQL. So that's how you can limit your number of observation that you are trying to read. Now let's see how we can rename the variables in proc SQL. If you're trying to do renaming of the variable in SAS dataset, you can use the rename statement, or you can create a new variable with a new name and you can just drop the existing variable. So that's how you can rename a variable. In proc SQL, you can use alias, you can create, column alias using as option. So if you, let's say if I want to change employee number to, as emp number, so I can just use as option in a select clause of a proc SQL. You can also create the alias using as option for a table also. I'll be going through it when we are working on the join, how you can create alias for a table. But here by using as option, what you can do, you can rename your variable. So you can see here on this column I have used as option, I have renamed it as emp number. The department I have renamed as debt, and let's see if these variables are really being renamed when we see the output of this program. Okay, I think something went wrong. Let's try to run it again. Am I running something wrong? The variables are being renamed. I'm not sure if it is something to do with the output property that it's not working properly, but I'll get back to you on this one. So variable you can rename, as you can see in your output window. We can use as option and we can rename them. Yeah. So still not sure why the result window printing the the original variable name, but the variable name have been changed, which I've shown you using a create table statement. I'll explain what is create table and why do we use it. Now let's say the next task which you have, let's say you want to create a new variable. In data statement you can just specify, in data sets you can just specify when you're writing data statements the new variable you want to create. Here also you can use an existing variable and you can create a new variable. In the example which you have on your screen, we are having age, and what we decided to increase the age, let's say by 10 year. Suppose we have to increment a numeric variable by 10. So in this what we use, we have mentioned that particular variable, we have mentioned the operation which we want to do. So you have all the all the mathematical operation you can do in a select clause, and using as, again I have created a new variable. So you can specify those variable, you can write the operation which you want to do on a particular variable, and using that you can create a new variable as well. You can see a new variable have been created when we have specified, by existing, when we have specified the expression age plus 10, and that's how you can create a new variable. Now let's see, if you have created a new variable and you want to refer this newly created variable to create another variable in select clause. So the question is, can we just refer, like we refer the one existing variable, can we refer the newly created variable as well? So let's see, and and find out whether it works or not. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating a new variable, new age, by by adding 10 to the existing age variable, and again I'm adding another 10 to the newly created variable. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So what happens when you do that, you'll get an error. So if you have to refer the newly created variable, you need to use calculated calculated keyword. You have to use the calculated keyword, which will allow you to refer your existing your newly created variable. Yeah. The keyword calculated, you need to use it before the variable that you're trying to use. For example, you have created a new age variable and you want to refer this variable again. So what you need to do, you need to write calculated keyword before that particular variable, and now you can use that variable to create a new variable. So now Let's see if it works when we write a calculated keyword. When we write SQL query with calculated keyword. Now you see this time we have not got any error, and you can see the output. Another, we have created two variables. First is new age, and from the new age we have created new underscore age 2 variable. So the calculated variable, what are the uses that we have? For example, you are writing, in your select clause, you are creating a new variable which you are deriving by a complex, expression. Let's say I have not covered it, but I'll be covering it. Let's say you are using case when, and you are creating in a new variable. You have a complex expression which you have written to derive this newly created variable. Now you have two options, and in general it is being used when you are trying to subset the data on basis of this newly created variable. Again, how you will subset in PROC SQL? You'll use a where clause. So instead of writing the same complex, expression that you have used to derive the variable in select, what you can do, you can use the calculated keyword, and then you no need to write it again. In general, you can also use it if you are, let's say you have to write a complex expression to create a new variable, and based on that new variable you have to create another variable. So this happens, most of the time when you're trying to, in select, you're trying to create a variable by using a complex expression that you have. So instead of writing the same conditions again, it is easy to write calculated, and it helps you. So that's the, a normal application that you have when you are working, on real time data. So you have gone through proc sort. You have gone, in detail how you can remove duplicate using no-dup key, or using no-dup function in proc sort. In proc SQL, you can use the distinct keyword in order to remove the duplicates. The distinct, it will remove, duplicate based on the columns that you are specifying in select clause. So in this query which you are having, it will try to remove the duplicate by employee number and department. I'm referring a data which I have already created with duplicates. So that's how you can remove duplicates. Luckily, when you're writing just select, it doesn't show number of observations. So we'll revisit it when we are trying to work on a code. When we are creating an output table or creating an output data set. If in your table, if you are having lot of columns, and you just, instead of specifying all those column, you can use distinct star as well. So the distinct keyword works with the star as well. So what it will do, it will compare, values of all the columns, and if they are duplicated, then it will remove them automatically. So if you are trying to work, with the proc sort, and the same thing which you can do with the proc SQL. So proc SQL is very powerful thing that in at one place it have, it give you a lot of functionalities. And then there are question arise when you have proc SQL, why do you have data statements? But I think that is for some other time, that I'll explain when we have gone through the join and different things. So that's how you can remove duplicates using distinct keyword in select clause when you are using proc SQL. Now let's see, can you label or format your output using proc SQL? So when we're working with the data step, what we are using the format keyword if you want to format some data. We are using label if you want to change the label, how the variable should be, we should print in the output window. Here what you can do in proc SQL also, you can use label equal to or format equal to options just to format your data. For example, I have created a label on employee number as employee space number, and on monthly income I have created the format as 8.2. So I want to see the two, decimal point of income. So let's run this first without label and format. Now you can see you have employee number without a space and monthly income, and there is no format applied. So if you apply those format, that's how you can, use the label. If you want to rename them, in your output window. This is basically being used when you're trying to present something in your SAS, and you want to, have the standardized a variable name or the column names, or you want to apply the format on the output window. You need to copy it and paste and show it to your stakeholders, or the one or to your manager. So that's how, instead of doing it manually in an Excel, what you can do, you can have SAS to do it for you, and you can just copy paste the data. So now we are creating label using a label equal to option that we have in PROC SQL. So you need to write it after your variable. The same way you can write the format, and you can write both the option in the in for the same variable as well. So you can see the employee number, the variable label is being shown here, and then you have monthly income. How you can use, let's say if you want to use label for monthly income as well, then you can use label also. So you just need to specify all these after your variable name. Let's say I say, that's how you can format and use the label for same variable in PROC SQL. So all you need to do, if you want to specify some label, or you want to specify some format to a variable in PROC SQL, just write label equal to for and the description, for that variable. And if you want to apply some format, so just write format equal to option and the type of format which you want to apply. Now we have covered, a lot of things that we have already seen with the data steps, and the next in the order is how you can order your data. In SAS, you have a proc sort, which also removes the duplicate for you, and it also allows you to sort the data. In proc SQL, you can use order by clause if you want to sort the data. All you need to do, just use the order by clause, specify the variable name on which you want to sort, and specify the sorting order. So in order by, you can use ASC option to sort the data in ascending order, and in I know with SAS, ascending is the default order. You can use DESC option to sort the data in descending order. The order by clause you need to write, after from. So I have shown you the structure. You have select, you have from, you have here, then you have order by, then you have, group by, or having, and then order by. So let's see if we are able to sort our data using order by clause. So you can relate all these that we are doing here with the previous session when we were using it, when we were doing the same operation using proc sort. So now you can see the data have been sorted by employee number, and it has been sorted in descending order. For that, I am using DSC option in order by clause. So after this one, we are coming how we can do the subsetting using where clause. So in proc SQL, you can write a where clause if you want to select, particular data types. You have seen subsetting using if statement and using where statement when we're using it with data step. Here you will find a lot of similarities. It just that the way you write the syntax is a bit different. So if you are using, a data step in the with the where statement, you can use between and you can use most of the logical operators that we have. You can use a lot of functions like contain, like you can do wildcard search there. The same functionality is available, with the where clause when it is being used in proc SQL. So the first conditional operator that we'll see between, and please note this is something that is most frequently used. You are when you are being asked that you need to report some employees, those are getting income between 5 to 10 lakhs. Then you need to use between, and you can alternatively also use and operator like lesser than equal to and greater than equal to, or you can use a between and. operator. You can also use between and when somebody asks you to just pull the data for last 1 year. So in your database you have data, let's say for last 5 years, but you need to pull the data for last 1 year. So what you'll do, you'll use a reference date from your table, and you can specify them, between this date to this date. So that's how you can use between and operator. So in our example, what I'm trying to do, I'm only trying to fetch the observation where monthly income is between 3000 and 8000. So those are the observation only I need. So what I will do, I'll write a where clause, I'll write the variable name, and I'll write the logical condition using between and end. So I'll write between the starting value that I want and the end value that I want. Yeah, you can see all these income values are somewhere between 3000 and 8000. Now let's say if you want to do the same operation instead of using between and, how you can do it. So that's the another way if you want to subset your data using where clause in PROC SQL. Now this is the first conditional operator that you can use. The second, you can use contain. You can use contain or question mark operator, and you can select the observation by searching a substring into a string. So you can specify what you want to search, and those values you can subset. So the example is if you are trying to search in a first name variable as de, so you can use in the very close first name contains in single quotes your substring that you have. You can use the question mark as well, that will also do the same operation. Now in SAS you have in operator, sorry, in PROC SQL you have in operator as well. Very similar to when we are subsetting using with the dataset. The benefit of in operator is you can specify multiple value within within in, and that those value will be selected. If you alternatively want to write a different expression to get the same result, then you have to write a longer code. So let's say if you want to just fetch the observation or fetch the records where education field is in life science or it should be medical. So what you can do alternatively, you can write in where clause, you can write your variable, you can specify the value which you want, and you can use the or operator, and you can specify the second value that you want. So as you know, with the and, it was working like it should be greater than or equal to 3000 and lesser than equal to 8000. Here we are working with the character, we are using or operator. So you can see all these values has been have been selected when the education field contains life science or medical. That's the one way. But the challenge with this part is, if you, let's say if you have 10 values that you want to fetch for education field, then you have to keep writing or, so the program length will become more. Instead of doing this, what you can use in operator, and you can specify all those values that you want. So that is the use of in operator. So whenever you have to specify multiple values, most of the time in the cases whenever you have categorical variable, then only you need to specify. When you have you want to, let's say, fetch the employee based on the location, you just have to fetch based on the location name of a few of the location. So you can use in operator, and you can specify your values, and those it will works as same as the previous query, but it's convenient comparatively. So you can see it's doing the same operation. The next thing is, there are times when you want to see for a particular variable or for a particular column how many values are missing. Let's say for how many observation this value is missing. Basically in PROC SQL you have is missing when you're using with where statement. You can use with the equal to as well, just specify the missing values, and then you can report them using if in your if you're working with data step. Here you also have these operators that you can use, is missing or is null, and then those value will be fetched where the values are missing. For example, you can see I have created a data set in the permanent library called import, where the income for the few of the observation is missing. I want to fetch only those observation and see what is the corresponding variable, what is the data for corresponding variable in our table. And so that can be done by using is missing operator. all the values have been fetched where the monthly income value was missing. So that's how you can fetch missing data from your existing table that you have, that you're trying to query. You can use is missing. You can alternatively use is null also. That's also give you the same functionality. The next thing is how you can use like operator. The you can do a wildcard search with the like. So let's see what are the different options that we have with like, and then we'll try to run that program. You can see a pattern if you are using an underscore search for the single character. So let's say your name, let's say you have a name Justin. You want all the customer those are having first as J and STIN. It doesn't matter the second character in the particular string is U or not. You want to do the pattern search. You just want to get anything. Then you can use an underscore. The percentage sign is basically you can search any number of characters. For example, you want to all the employees those last name is let's say is Kumar. Or so what you can do, you can just mention the percentage and then specify the what you want to search in the end. If you specify the percentage in the starting and the end of it, it will work like contain. So these are the different example that you can that you can basically search using the hyphen, using the underscore and using the percentage sign. So it basically if you see the last with the percentage sign, so all the names from the list will be selected if they are having D and the third and the fourth character as AN in the string. So let's see with our data set, what I want to do, I want to fetch all the employee if the job role is ending with executives. So what I have done, I have specified the percentage sign starting of the pattern that I want to search. So I don't care what comes before executives, whether they are senior executive or just the executive. So I just wanted to fetch if they are ending with executive, if the job role at the last it's having executives. It is very similar to the like that you had with the where statement in a data. So all the executive have been fetched. You can see this. Now again I'm coming back to calculated variable, and since so the variable which you are creating in your select clause also can be referred in your where clause by using calculated keyword. The example you are seeing here, I'm creating a new variable, new age, and then using the calculated keyword I'm referring that variable in where clause. Without calculated, this variable it doesn't exist in the emp data table. It's a newly created variable and it will not be available if you don't use calculated keyword. Another way to refer the same variable, what you can do, you can write the same expression or same condition that you used to derive that variable in the select clause. You can alternatively write this also. You can see both will give you the same results. So that's how you can write, you can refer the variable which you have created in your select clause using calculated. Now the next topic that we have, how do we write multiple conditions? For example, let's say you are being asked that based on the age of an employee, you have to create a variable called position. You have been given a certain banding of for that. For example, let's say 0 to 25, you want to create a position as sales representative. If the age is between 25 to 35, then you want to create a banding called sales executive. And if it is greater than 35, then you want to create a position for them as a manager. So those things you can do. We can use case and when. So how do we use case and when? So in the select clause, you use the case case statement, and with the when you can specify the multiple condition that you want to. Please note the case and when statement, it has to be end with the end keyword. So that marks that this case when is going to end here. So in this, what I'm doing, I'm using the between and operator that I have, and I'm creating different banding based on the age. You can specify all these that most of the logical operator is available for the case operation. You have contain is available, is null or is missing is available, like is available. You're trying to search the first character that is available. So all these operators are available in case expression. So you can see the new position have been created based on the age bending, and now I just wanted to see what are the different values. So it's always a good practice when you are doing some modification that you quantify your data. If you're creating a new variable, you have to check it. How do you do that? You have proc means, you have proc frequency. You can run those things just to see, whatever operation that you are trying to do, has it been, has it been working properly or not. So let's say now I have created the banding based on the age, but now it's very difficult for me just to manually, verify all those things whether it has been created or not. So or maybe, if the values are being assigned for all the rows that I have. So in order to do that, you can use, when you want to count something, for the group by variable, like what are the different values for this particular group by variable, then you can always use proc frac. So this proc, sorry. So what I'll do, I'll be checking whether the position have been assigned for all the observation or not. So I have just created a output data set out of this, now you see there is no missing values for all the observation. This confirms that for all the observation, the value has been assigned. Now, if you guys remember on the session that we had, how we can create summaries, by group by variable. We had proc mean, to create summaries, if you want to do sum or min max, or if you want to take median, or if you want to take average, so we can use proc mean. I have also shown you guys how you can use, first dot and last dot to create the same summaries, with retain statement, that how you can create minimum value, how you can create maximum value, and how you can basically sum based on some categorical variable. The PROC SQL also offer you the same functionality. Now you can use the group by clause for the variable that you want to create summaries. You have all these functions. So you have all these functions that is supported, in PROC SQL. You have average or mean function, which does the same thing. You have count, frequency, sum, max, min, and miss. Basically, to, function is to count the number of missing values. You have a standard deviation, the variance. So all these functions are available. You can also see the SQL function comparison with the base SAS. You have, for the count equivalent is proc frequency. The minimum function, you can do with the proc mean. The max function, again, maximum value, by grouping some variable, you can calculate using proc mean. And some also you can do using proc mean. And in proc SQL, you have these functions. So if you want to create summaries in proc SQL, you need to specify that variable in select clause. Also, that variable has to be specified in group by clause. In the real-time cases, the group by variable that you'll have, it will be with the categorical variable. It will be a character variable. You'll have date. For example, somebody asks you to, calculate sum of cases in every month, and you have a data for a year. So you'll use the reference date in the group by, and with this in the select, and then the output basically will be, group by on the variable that you are specifying in group by clause. You can use any function, if you want to sum, you can use sum function and specify the variable name using as. You can create alias for this column name as total income. That's how you can use function and create different column names. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the total income, minimum income, maximum income, and the mean income by job role from the data set that we have in SAS data library. Yeah. So if you remember, we have created same sort of summaries using proc mean also, and using retain statement, first dot and last dot. And this is the another way that you can do it using proc SQL. So you can see we have by job role we have created the total income, the minimum income that employee might be getting, the maximum income for the particular job role employee is getting, and what is the mean, for that job role group. So that's how you can do it. You have all these function available that you can use. Now let's see what you want to do. Apply some condition to the aggregation summaries that you are creating. In order to do that, you have an having clause in your proc SQL. That's a very common question that is being asked, in an interview. What's the difference between where and having? So if that's being asked, the where is going to, apply the selection criteria when it's trying to read the data from a table. The having is being used when you are using some, any of the summary function, and the selection criteria will be applied when the summary has been created by, by list of group by variable that you have. So that's the difference. The having will not, be applied when you're trying to read the data from, in your PROC SQL. For that you need to use where clause. That's where will subset when it's trying to read the data. Having will subset when it's trying to, output the summaries of the data. So when you have summaries and you want to restrict that summary, based on the summary, summary thing, you doesn't want to, report certain things by summarizing the data. What you do, you can use an having. If you want to filter the data from input data source, then you always use where clause. So let's see, I have counted the number of, employee by the job role, and I am being asked not to report any job role if the number of employees is lesser than 100. It happens because the number is not significant, and the maybe the income study which they are going to do, those number are not so significant, and you are being asked to remove that. Now how will you remove, these rows where the number of employee in your, in your summary is less than 100? To do that, what you can do, you can use a having clause. You can specify the variable. So now see, this summary variable is being created here. You don't need a calculator for this one, since having will be applied once the summary has been created. So what I'm doing, I'm creating, number of employees, and I'm giving a selection criteria and having all the employees, where the number of employees was lesser than 100 have been removed. Report all those job role categories when the number of employees greater than or equal to 100. So that's basically, it will automatically exclude the number of employee when they are less than 100.